So a few years back, I made a video on getting the classic Mac OS to run on the Nintendo Wii, but that didn't answer the question of if it was possible to get OS X running on this thing. Well, my friends, that day is finally here. Thanks to a developer named Brian Keller, there is now a working bootloader for this console that can run Mac OS X. So you already know what we have to do. Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. So this right here is the Wii Mac project, and I've received a lot of requests from you guys to make a video on this thing, including from the developer himself, which I think is pretty awesome. So I want to thank Brian as well as everybody else who reached out to me and made this video suggestion. This project literally got released yesterday as I'm filming this video, so it just came out. And it just looks like a really, really cool thing to do. And also, it looks like something that took quite a while to get working. The developer has a blog post that details how he did this, and it definitely is worth a read if you're interested in, seeing how this was done, and if you just want to, get a little bit more information about the project. But fortunately, it's very easy to get this up and running on the Wii, and of course, we're going to be going through that process today. As of right now, the only supported OS X version is 10.0 Cheetah. You can see this chart goes up to 10.5 Leopard because, of course, that was the last version of Mac OS X to officially support PowerPC, and it looks like there are a couple of limitations currently, so Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, the optical drive, hardware accelerated graphics, and audio do not work, but, we'll see if maybe this stuff gets supported in future releases, who knows. So what you need to make this work is, of course, a homebrewed Wii. That's kind of a given. You also need to have BootMe installed, and then you have to download the package from this GitHub page, as well as the two ones linked here, the patched kernel and the drivers for OS X Cheetah. You also need to have two SD cards. The author does note that you could technically use one, but it's, a bit more of a lengthy process, and we're just going to use two because that is what this guide has been written for. One of those SD cards is going to need to have BootMe on it, which if you haven't already installed BootMe, you'll go through that process in the HackMe installer. And then you'll use a second SD card to actually contain both the macOS installer as well as the partition that you will install OS X onto. Now, I've already got the BootMe SD card all set up and configured. All you have to do for that is copy over the WiiMac folder that you download from the initial GitHub page here. So from this page, you go in and download this, you copy over that folder to the root of the SD card, and then you want to go into config.txt here and change the video mode if you need to. By default, it's set to NTSC-P, but you see these are the other options here. There's also a boot arguments section here. It looks like that verbose boot is in there by default. That works for me. And yeah, so that's all you have to do for the first card. The second card is going to take a little bit more time. It also has to be at least 4 gigabytes in size. This one I'm using is exactly 4 gigabytes in size, so that will limit the amount of stuff that we can copy over to the hard drive, but at the very least it will let us get the system up and running on this thing. So we're just going to go back to the guide here, and I've got the macOS host section expanded, and all of this is pretty much done from the terminal. So let me get that started up here. We're going to run disk-util list to get a list of all of the drives on the system, just to identify which one is the SD card, which is disk 4. So now what we can do is just copy this second command here, and we'll paste that into terminal. But then, of course, we have to make some modifications. So we have to change the X in disk there to number 4 in my case. And just to explain what this will do really quickly, it will make 3 partitions on the SD card. One of them is a support partition that's 64 megabytes in size with the FAT32 file system. One of them is the install partition where we will copy over the ISO file contents to. That's an HFS Plus partition, which is 1 gig in size. And then the Macintosh HD partition, also HFS Plus, will utilize the rest of the space. That's what this R means here. So we'll hit enter. We will allow it access to removable volumes, and there we go. It also, this command not found thing is just because this text here was copied over in the command as well, so it just doesn't know what to do with that, so it just skips to the next thing, which is the actual command, and then it starts going through with, doing what it's going to do. And once that's done, we can move on to the flashing installer section. So this is where you would want to mount the ISO image for the OS X Cheetah installation. So we'll double click on that and just close out of the window. And then you want to run the disk util list command again, just to see what the system has assigned what you just mounted as, which not surprisingly is disk number 5. So we have to unmount both the install partition and what we just mounted. So we're going to paste this command in here. And basically you want to look at these identifiers over here in the right column to, figure out what you're going to replace these values with. So disk X is going to be disk 4 in my case. A, we're going to change that over to a 4. Don't go by the 3 over here. You want to go by what the identifier says. So 4 and 4. And then the second one is going to be disk 5. We'll change out the Y with that. And B, we're going to change out with the macOS install CD, which will be 9. So press enter. It should say that both of those volumes were unmounted. And then we do the block level copy. So we can just copy this whole command, paste it in here, and then change those values once again. So IF is the input basically, or the source, and then this over here is the destination. So Y is going to be 5, B is going to be 9, and then we go over here and X will be 4, A will be also 4. And with that, I'll hit enter. It'll ask me for my password, so let me pop that in, and it should start copying. There we go. And that's done. Now, we're not completely finished yet. We are done in terminal, but we have to prepare the support partition before we take this SD card out and put it into the Wii. And this is where you copy over the drivers as well as the mock kernel file. If you haven't already downloaded these, you want to go back to the supported version table and get these two files right here. So I'm going to open up the support partition. You want to make a new folder called WiiMac, and then inside of here, just drag the mock kernel and then go into the drivers folder and copy all of the text files and paste them over here. And once it finishes copying, we are good to remove this card from the Mac and not actually pop it into the Wii yet, but we will get there. And speaking of getting there, if you're planning on getting out there to do some traveling soon, today's sponsor Nomad eSIM provides a great way to get connected while you're on the go. Instead of relying on your existing phone carrier and incurring a ton of roaming charges, you can use one of Nomad's eSIMs available for over 200 destinations. Before I discovered Nomad, it cost a lot more to use my phone while abroad. My carrier charges a fee for every day that I'm traveling internationally. But by using Nomad, all I have to do is pick a destination, choose how much data I want, and pay a one-time fee. And what I like about them are the regional plans that they offer. Say you're going to Europe and want your phone to work in every country you visit, well, they've got a plan for that. Plus, it's super easy to set up. Just download the app, pick your plan, and install your new eSIM on your device. It's that simple. Nomad supports both Android and iOS devices and works with top data providers so that no matter where you are, you'll always be getting a reliable connection. The holidays will be here in no time, so be sure to check out Nomad by scanning this QR code or clicking the link down below and use my code MichaelMJD to get 20% off your first purchase. And huge thanks again to Nomad for making this video possible. Instead, what you want to do is put in the first SD card that you made. So basically how this works is you load BootMe off of this, load WiiMac from BootMe, and then you swap out the SD card once it's loaded with this one, and then you load into the macOS installer and go through all of that. So we'll power on the Wii, and I've got preloader on this thing, so I'll just hold reset, and I'll go down to BootMe iOS. And if you've never used BootMe before, you navigate around in here by pressing the power button on the console. So we're going to press that twice to go over to the SD card option and then hit reset. And I've got a whole bunch of other stuff on here, so I have to press the power button a few times here to get down to the WiiMac folder, hit reset, and then go down to WiiMac.elf, hit reset. And now we're in the WiiMac bootloader. So we can do as it says and remove the first SD card, and then we'll pop in the one that we've made with the 3 partitions on it. And it's now found 2 bootable partitions. and we're going to use the power button to go down to macOS install CD and hit reset. Actually, before I do this, I'm just going to plug in a USB keyboard and mouse just in case you have to do that before actually starting it. Alright, that's in. Let's hit reset and see if this works. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is definitely verbose boot. It looks like it found the mouse, and I'm assuming the keyboard as well. This is, we're like not even at the installer yet, and I'm already like really excited to see this. This is just freaking awesome. Oh no! That's a kernel panic. What? Okay, I actually got it to work, believe it or not. I think the problem is all because of this USB card reader that I was using. I think this thing is starting to die here, so I'm just gonna have to toss it, because I went through that exact same process again, and all of a sudden the computer had trouble reading from the SD card and formatting it and partitioning it and all of that. So I just did it on a whole separate computer, my regular MacBook, which already has an SD card reader built in, and it worked totally fine, was able to go through it, and now we're here. Only problem is I've got a keyboard and mouse plugged in, and well, I mean, I'm moving the mouse right now and we got nothing. So I think that we have to have these plugged in before we boot into the installer so that it recognizes it. So we're just going to power this off. Oh no, it kernel panicked again. What? Maybe it had nothing to do with the card reader. I still think that card reader is bad. But, I mean, the only thing that's changed is I now have the USB keyboard plugged in. Maybe it's, okay, this is one of the keyboards with a USB hub. Maybe that's causing problems? Alright, so we've got a boring old HP keyboard and a boring old HP mouse. Now, this is just a hunch, by the way. I have no idea if this is actually the problem. The guide does say, the macOS installer will now load, use a USB mouse and keyboard to navigate the interface and install it. It doesn't say up here to, like, plug that in before booting into the operating system. I mean, it didn't work before, but if it works this time, then I'm thinking it's probably because it didn't like the Apple keyboard with the USB hub being plugged in. Yeah, okay, so now we're here. I can move the mouse around. Okay, so that was probably the issue. So you have to use just a basic old USB keyboard and mouse with no fancy USB hub or anything like that. So, this is great. We're here. We're gonna use English for the main language, and if everything worked out like it should, when we go through here, we should see the Macintosh HD partition that we created as the destination to install to. So it's, okay, it's just letting us know about classic macOS 9 applications. That's cool. And there it is, Macintosh HD, 2.6 gigabytes. We are not going to erase it. It doesn't mention we need to do that. So we're just going to leave it alone. Hit continue. And now we can customize it, so we can get, yeah, like additional print drivers we don't need, so we can, you know, save a little bit of space there. And yeah, we'll just get the BSD subsystem and of course the base system and essential system software. Hit install, and here we go. All right, let's hope that it installs. Alright, well it looks like we're finished installing because the Wii has restarted. We are back at the menu, and I guess since we're here, I'll just go into the homebrew channel and get into BootMe from here. So once again, we'll have to swap out the SD card. So we'll get our BootMe one in there, and then we'll just hit the home button, go down to launch BootMe, and once again go over here, and go down to WiiMac and launch the ELF file. And now when we put in this other SD card, we're going to choose the option of just booting from the Macintosh HD partition, which I believe is the default one. So you see, yeah, it will just automatically boot from it. It does a little timeout here. But actually we want to hit the eject button to override and make sure that it has force 800 by 600 equals 1. It does mention to do this in the guide. Yeah, the setup process requires at least 800 by 600, higher than the Wii natively supports. By using this force 800 by 600 equals 1 boot argument, we can temporarily force the Wii to render into a larger frame buffer, allowing us to complete the setup process. While operating in this mode, visual quality is significantly reduced. So once you boot into macOS 10, then you would set it back to 640 by 480 to get much better visual quality. I'm also looking at how we're going to get software onto this thing. And I think the only way of doing that is through a USB drive, because Wi-Fi is not supported. Maybe Ethernet? Maybe we could try, because I've got the Wii's Ethernet adapter, so we could try that, but the optical drive doesn't work, so we're not going to be able to, you know, put in a disc or anything with, like, Halo on it. Alright, we got a cursor. Let's see if the mouse works. It looks like it does. Okay, so that's a good sign. And yeah, I can already tell that the quality is pretty reduced. You can see how that mouse cursor looks. Oh yeah, and check out the text on there. Jeez. So yeah, we are going to just go through here. We'll choose a US keyboard layout. We should be able to do a Command Q here to skip the registration stuff. And we'll make our account. Let's go into system preferences and lower the resolution so that we can actually like read all of this text on the screen. 640 by 480 is grayed out. We probably have to uncheck this and then go to that. Oh my gosh, that looks so much better. Okay, confirm. Of course, everything is like really crammed, but we can actually see everything. So there's our 3 partitions. So I'm guessing it already did everything with, you know, the text files and stuff and the kernel file on the support partition. Well, there are a few recommended things to do. We've already changed the resolution. The author recommends, you know, lowering the size of the dock. That totally makes sense. And then to improve system responsiveness, recommend changing the swap file size from 76 megabytes down to 7.6 megabytes. You can edit a line in etc.rc. So we'll go ahead and do that. But let's just hop into About This Mac to see what shows up in here. So yeah, it's a PowerPC G3 with 78 megabytes of RAM. Pretty awesome. And let me just go into terminal here. I guess we can, well, let me do a couple things. We'll go into System Preferences, go to the dock, and lower the size of this so that, you know, it's not like super large there. And I wonder how well... Okay, magnification actually works pretty decently. It's maybe a little bit choppy, but I do want to lower it from max. You know, we'll have it kind of pop up like that. That looks really nice. And yeah, we'll turn on automatically hide and show the dock just so it gets out of the way, since we are pretty limited with screen real estate here. And to get to that folder, we'll just go to the Go menu. And then we're going to go to /private/etc. And then find this RC file, which is down here. And let's open that in text edit. So we'll choose that. And we just have to remove one of the zeros from this last value here. So we'll get rid of that. And then will it let us save this? Let's see. Overwrite. It says file is read-only, couldn't save document. Okay, yeah, what a surprise there. So can we save this to the desktop? And then we'll just move this to trash. It cannot be deleted. Okay, we might have to just do this through terminal. So let's cd/private/etc. and do an ls. So can we just do sudo rm-rf-rc? Put in our password. Okay, I think that got rid of it. Yes, it did. We still have rc.boot and rc.common. So is it going to let us just copy this into here? No, it cannot be modified. So we'll probably have to use the copy command. Alright, so now we're on the desktop, so we should be able to run a copy of rc to /private/etc. There it is. Okay, modified today at 12:52 p.m. So that should be good. So we should just have to restart. I'm actually curious, if you restart it from here, will it still just basically shut down and get us back to the Wii menu? Yep, that's exactly what it does. Okay, so so yeah, restarting is effectively the same thing as shutting down. So let's do this whole dance again. Hopefully that's the last time we'll have to reboot. So before we get to like trying to install some applications, I want to test out a couple of things. First of all, USB support. So I've got somewhere a USB flash drive. So let me try to unplug. This is the keyboard, so we'll unplug that. I mean, well, we already know it has USB support since it's recognizing both of these peripherals. But let's see what happens if we plug in a flash drive. Will it be able to read from this? Now, this is a Linux Mint installer drive, so it may complain about the file system or just not be able to recognize it at all. So far, it's not looking particularly good. So let me find something that's like FAT32. Okay, this is a FAT32 drive with a bunch of just random stuff on it from some other video projects. So let's try to pop that in. Also, not looking particularly great. Can we just not copy stuff over to this? Yeah, I mean, if we go into disk utility, we've only got these 3 volumes. Under drive setup, it only sees disk 0. I mean, I wonder if it could be a thing where we have to have the drive plugged in before we start up. But let me see if I can, like, plug back in the keyboard and just, you know, still have that work. So we'll pop that in, and then let me go into, like, go to folder, and can we... Oh, we cannot type. Okay. So that indicates to me that it's only recognizing USB devices when it boots up. So of course that means that that last restart we did is not actually the last restart, because assuming we can even get it to read a USB drive, we have to restart it every single time we want to change something out. Now, we had a problem with the USB hub before on that Apple keyboard, but I was curious to see if we could try, like, this is just a powered USB 2.0 hub, because, you know, if I want to have the mouse and keyboard and a USB drive and the Wii's network adapter, if we can get that to work all plugged in at the same time, we're going to have to use this USB hub. So, I'm going to try this. We will just unplug all of this, and just for the heck of it, let me try the keyboard in the top port here. Nope, that does not work. So, okay, this may cause another kernel panic, but there's only one way to find out. Well, we have a lot of blue lights going on here, and oh my gosh, okay, it actually started up. Look at that. And we've got the mouse working. Maybe it was just that particular USB hub on the Apple keyboard. I am really curious about this network adapter. Like, do you think this can actually get online? Because the guide doesn't say Ethernet or network isn't working. It just says that Wi-Fi doesn't work. So maybe we can get online. That would be really cool, because then we could just download stuff to here. But let me not get ahead of myself. It hasn't completely started up yet, so it could still give us a problem. Okay, we're at the desktop. And I don't see the USB drive. Interestingly, it looks like it has not mounted the installer partition from the SD card. We only have Macintosh HD and support. So this could be a case of it just doesn't like this particular USB drive, or it just can't read from USB drives at all. Or it could just be that it doesn't like how it's currently formatted. Okay, well, we have the macOS 10 installer in here. Under drive setup, no, we don't have the other drive. Okay, so that ain't gonna work. We'll just minimize that for now. Well, it might be that the only way we're gonna get stuff onto here is just put this SD card back into my Mac and just write stuff over to the Macintosh HD partition. But I am curious, can we change like some network settings if we go back in here? Open up system preferences. Will it actually recognize a network adapter in here? Alright, so it's time for the I did a bunch of stuff and here's what didn't work section of the video. So I did try to mess around with the network stuff for a little bit, and long story short, I couldn't get anything to work. In fact, if you go into the utilities folder and try just to open up the network utility, it will crash immediately. So this does not open up, so you can't get into there to change any of those settings around. And yeah, I just, can't find a workaround, a working workaround to that. I mean, you can see I even have the Ethernet adapter disconnected right now, and it still crashes. So I have a feeling that it's just overall network support isn't working right now, even though the guide just specifies that Wi-Fi isn't supported. And it's probably going to take a future update to get that working if it even ever happens. Now, if you remember from the Linux on Wii video I did a few years ago, that was able to utilize the Wii's Wi-Fi adapter. So maybe it is possible on OS X here too, just, it's going to take some more time for the developer to implement that, but, I mean, who knows? So then I decided to just go ahead and try to move on to installing some third-party applications. Of course, I wanted one of those to be Halo Combat Evolved for Mac, which has made an appearance many times on this channel. And since I couldn't get, this thing to recognize a USB flash drive, I had to take the SD card out and put it back into my MacBook, open up the Macintosh HD partition, and then take an ISO image of this disk, open that up, and copy the contents from it over to the hard drive. However, I then ran into another problem that I'm sure a lot of you probably saw coming, that being the SD card was too small, or specifically the partition was too small. Although I could copy over the contents of the disk in here to the hard drive, that would not leave enough free space left to actually go through the installer and be able to run the game. So then I went ahead and just did this entire process again from scratch on a 64 gigabyte SD card, which admittedly, yes, I should have done from the beginning, but I was, concerned that maybe, just maybe, there would be a problem with using a really large SD card. Turns out there isn't, it works totally fine, and we're here and we've got plenty of space. But then I realized that this copy of Halo requires macOS 10.2, so it's not even going to work on here anyways. So we're just going to move on to trying a couple of other things. You see I've got a bunch of files dumped on the desktop here, and by the way, modifying that RC file, much easier on a separate computer, because you don't have to worry about dealing with permissions or anything like that. You can just open it up, modify it, save it. One of the other things I did is I copied over a system folder from a macOS 9 installation, and I've got it on the Macintosh HD partition here. So this will allow us to utilize the classic environment, which is incredibly useful on this really early version of OS X, because there just doesn't really seem to be a whole lot of applications designed to run natively on macOS 10.0. In fact, even the version of Microsoft Office, the first release for OS X, which was just called Microsoft Office 10, that required 10.1 Puma, which came out 6 months after 10.0 Cheetah. So, it kind of took a while for app developers to start, porting their applications over to OS X. So there was a time period where having an install of macOS 9 was very beneficial for running applications. So I have a copy of Microsoft Office 2001 here, and this runs under macOS 9, so we're going to boot up the classic environment and see if we can install this. I guess we can go ahead and just mount the ISO here. And there it is. So I think we can actually just run the installer from here, and it will start up Classic for us. You could alternatively go into System Preferences, go into the Classic pane, and just hit Start from there. And it's normally configured to just start up automatically when you boot up your system and log into your user account. So here it is, and we can see it running here. It should find the... Oh, there is not valid system software to start Classic. Please consult the user documentation. Huh. Okay, let me try and go into System Preferences and start it from there. We might have to specify the location of the system folder. Well, it hasn't even found a startup volume. That's interesting. It did try to start up when I logged in, so I thought that it discovered it because that didn't happen before. So let me just try to log out again and log back in, and we'll actually let it finish starting up. And yeah, here it is. Classic environment starting from selected startup volume. Some classic-specific resources need to be added to or updated in your system folder. Okay. And there we go, macOS 9.1. So we probably just had to let it go through this initial boot process here. Also, the reason why that I shut this down earlier when it was trying to start up the first time is because I could tell that that the system definitely kind of slowed down a little bit with Classic running in the background. This error came up and it said something about QuickTime, but now it's just showing like part of the macOS 9 desktop. Can we click, like, was the OK button over here somewhere, or the cancel button? I mean, we have this pop up here, QuickTime streaming installation failed because it requires open transport, so we can close that. And yeah, now we have, can we just hit enter? No. Are we just stuck with this, like, part of the desktop here? Like, we can't, because I can click out of it, you know, and now we get the macOS 10 menu bar. We're supposed to get the macOS 9 one when I click on here, but we don't have that. So I guess we're just kind of stuck with this for now, because I can't, like, I can't get out of it. It's not like a text box anymore. I don't think. I would feel like pressing enter or something would, or spacebar would close out of it, but that's not happening. But we'll go ahead and just mount the Microsoft Office 2001 ISO again. Yeah, this definitely looks like a display glitch going on. I mean, you see these are the little boxes from double-clicking on this here that just stay in there. What happens if I start moving? Yeah, okay. So this is like a Internet Explorer 6 situation going on here, which is great. We've got the macOS 9 menu bar. That's a good sign. And there it is, the installer. Okay, perfect. So we are going to select custom install, why not? And it looks like everything is checked by default. I mean, we'll just grab everything. I mean, look, it can't even show the amount of disk space we have. It just says it's over 2 gigabytes. So yeah, because we got plenty of space on here. So yeah, we'll just hit install. It's looking good so far. I have lost the mouse cursor though, so maybe not. Okay, we got it back. I thought the system froze up for a second. Well, maybe Classic did. I mean, see, well, no, we still have the bar moving across there. When I click in here, we should get, yeah, so you see it's just thinking here. We got the little watch cursor, but I can click out of the Classic window and still do stuff within OS 10 here. So, I mean, we can close out of that. Installation was successful. If you're finished, click quit. If you wish to perform additional installations, click continue. What other additional installations? Oh, that's just if you want to go back and get other programs. So we're done with that. It brought up this folder here, and let's open up Microsoft Word. Why not? Well, we've got the icon in the dock here. Your autocorrect file, comma, could not be saved. The file may be read-only, or you may not have permission to modify the file. Okay. It looked, oh, it totally just crashed. It looked like it was bringing up the window, and then it just crashed. So, yeah, maybe we are just utilizing, you know, too much memory or too much CPU usage. Okay, here's the CPU monitor opened up. We'll just move that up here. And let's try to start a PowerPoint, why not? It actually doesn't seem to climb all the way up. But, I mean, even getting the dock to display does seem to take a little bit. I mean, yeah, you can see it's a little bit delayed coming out there. Okay, like now it's taking a really long time. There we go. And, I mean, moving through here, yeah, you can see it's, okay, well, now it kind of caught up, but it's definitely a much slower than it was before, that's for sure. So PowerPoint looks like it's running. We'll click on it and see if we can get the window to appear. Okay, we've got a splash screen this time. That's good. We've got the OS 9 menu bar, Microsoft PowerPoint over here. That's all looking good. And we got the registration thing. We'll do that later, which means never, of course. Okay, and we got the project gallery. So let's do a PowerPoint presentation, and we'll just go with the default title slide layout. So we'll just call this My Cool PowerPoint. And then let's make one more slide after that. It is taking a little while to process that. Okay, that may have locked up the program because you can see the presentation window is no longer the active window. I can't seem to make it the active window. We'll just give it time here and see if it can recover. Okay, well, you can probably tell that I wasn't able to get PowerPoint to actually make that new slide, so I just ended up quitting out of it. I actually had to force quit out of it, and I even had to force quit out of the Classic environment itself. When I went into System Preferences to try to stop it from there, it just threw up an error message, and it gave me an option to force quit, which I did. And that's probably not very surprising. I mean, macOS 10 already doesn't run super well on the Wii. Running Classic on top of it definitely slows down the system considerably more. So I'm curious to see how the next application we're going to try performs. This is a copy of Doom Legacy to be specific, and this was made for macOS 10.0. So this is not a classic application. Now it needs macOS 10.0.2, and you see I put this folder here just to remind myself, and I think that we're running just regular 10.0. If we go into About This Mac, it just gives us a build number, which I could just look up, but I do want to go into the system profiler. I want to do that anyways, just to kind of see, you know, what other information that it shows in there, but it may show us the version number. Yeah, macOS 10.0, and I did just look up the build. This is the RTM release, so we're not running like a dot update or anything like that. But it interestingly shows that this is an iMac, it thinks. iMac with machine ID 406, of course, PowerPC G3, 729 megahertz, Apple extended keyboard for the keyboard type, 78 megabytes of RAM. We saw that from the About window. And there is a network overview thing. Does it show anything in here? It looks like it doesn't, just a whole bunch of blank information. And then production information. Do we have anything under here? We've got, yeah, ROM revision, we got nothing, and then all of this is not applicable. So serial number, software bundle, sales order number. But it's cool that it thinks it's an iMac, and I did just look up this machine ID. This appears to just be a generic value for all New World ROM Macs, so it doesn't really narrow it down to like a specific iMac model. But yeah, so that's pretty neat to see what we have going on in there. So, but yeah, we don't have macOS 10.0.2, so I do have this right here, I think is the updater package that'll get us to 10.0.4. This was actually provided by the developer of WiiMac on the GitHub page. So we'll mount this, and then we'll just open up the PKG, install on Macintosh HD, and install. Oh my gosh, it's actually running. Okay, it's still pretty it's still pretty slow. But it does work. Yeah, that's about all I can say about it. Oh yeah, and there's like enemies in here because this is the hardest difficulty. So can I make it up here to actually get the armor without dying? Oh my gosh, I think I'm totally gonna die. But it does run Doom, and it runs Doom a lot better than it did in the macOS 9 on the Wii video. So that is that's some pretty exciting stuff for sure. So you can check off another does it run Doom item off the list. I mean, of course, there are better ways to run Doom on the Wii than running it through like macOS 10. Oh my gosh, we just got like a major speed up there too. But oh yeah, what was the use key? Was that W? Yeah, there we go. That's what I mapped it to. Yeah, I've got kind of a weird keyboard layout set up. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I actually got those guys. Except for that one there. So let me slowly rotate around and see if I can find... Oh my gosh, and I'm totally shot. Okay, well, there you go, guys. That is successfully running Doom on macOS 10 on the Wii. That is very, very exciting for sure. And speaking of exciting, there was another discovery that I made as I was recording this video. Apparently there is a whole separate project that, at least it was posted over here on Reddit on April 10th, for running a newer version of macOS 10, 10.3 Panther in this case, on a Hackintoshed Wii U. And this is made possible through a project called Wiiintage, which appears to be an entirely separate thing. You can go to the GitHub page here. This GitHub page in particular is fairly new. If we go to the commit history, you can see the initial commit was last week on April 9th. So, yeah, this apparently is a project for running macOS 10 on the Wii and the Wii U, and they currently have 10.3 Panther supported on the Wii U only. 10.4 works, but you can't use the installer. It's also on the Wii U only. And then 10.2 works on, I guess, both the Wii and the Wii U. So that's very exciting. There's a whole nother project to take a look at, and you know, I've not done any Wii U homebrewing videos on this channel. I don't even own a Wii U, but I'm thinking about getting one because it would be really neat to try and install some operating systems on that, maybe some Linux distros. I'm sure that's possible. So I guess I'll leave you all with a question that I'm sure I probably already know the answer to. Would you like to see me do a video on this project, and would you like to see me do some Wii U homebrew projects on this channel? Definitely be sure to let me know down in the comments, but I think we are finally at a stopping point for this video. It is definitely an exciting time for all the people out there who have wanted to run macOS 10 on the Wii and have speculated if it's even possible. It looks like there's more than one way of doing that now. So, if you guys enjoyed this video, definitely be sure to give it a thumbs up, get subscribed, maybe consider becoming a patron or a channel member to get early and sponsor-free access to these videos before anybody else. But either way, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.